20 times around for the Warsaw Auto Marine and RV ULMA late models. They will press down on the loud pedal as the green flag flies. Our first of 4 features underway, and Larry Ferris on the top side gets plenty of traction off of turn 2. Looks for that same tacky stuff over in turns 3 and 4. Off of 4, it's the 14 of Dustin Walker able to stay out just by a nose, leading lap number 1. 2 by 2, the top 4 cars with Walker on the inside of Ferris. Now Brad Looney looks to clear Johnny Finewald. That's a battle for 3rd. All in the meantime, Matt Becker sits in 5th, watching that 2-wide battle up front. Corey, you have to wonder what happened to Todd Schute's car in that heat race. It looked as though he had the field covered. It broke on the last lap. He makes his way into the A feature starting mid-pack, and now he's up into the top 5.
Well, he did a lot of good work here at the Diamond of Dirt tracks when he made 4 trips here in 2019, but we'll just have to see how the 5 is able to handle the next 17 laps. Right now, watching the 21 of Johnny Finewald. He started in 3rd, has dropped back a spot, and Brad Looney trying to make his way to make it a pair of 14s at the front of this race. Looney alongside Larry Ferris. Ferris in the 51 to the top of the track, Looney to the bottom, all the while chasing Dustin Walker, and neither one of those cars, Shane, the 14 or the 51 of Ferris, able to gain any ground on your race leader.
The man making the move right now is the number 14 of Brad Looney, who was in 4th. He is now up to 2nd, 3 car lengths behind. Larry Ferris doesn't want to give that spot up as he stays right with Brad Looney. Todd Schute now is up to 4th, so Brad Looney and Todd Schute making their way through the field. Schute will grab another spot as he looks to the inside of the 51 of Larry Ferris, has a nose out in front as they exit turn 4, and that will complete 7 times around. 13 laps remain. Dustin Walker continues to build up his lead. It's up to 1.2 seconds over Brad Looney.
Dustin Walker, a 38-year-old out of Peculiar, Missouri, sponsored by W&W Utility Construction, with that rocket chassis and Bailey racing engine, enjoying a sizable lead, a second and a half on the field, but it is the other 14, the racer from Republic, Brad Looney, that's trying to reel him in. Looney in that big Panda transportation ride, just unable to gain any ground. Shane, as a matter of fact, he's losing ground as Walker is almost out to a 2-second lead on the field as Schute starts to come up behind the 14.
A couple of lapped cars in front of Dustin Walker. That is Walt Imhoff and Ashley Lancaster. They are both over in turns 1 and 2 right now. Walker now will look to the inside of Imhoff as Imhoff drifts high on the track. Walker takes that low line in turns 3 and 4 and tries to pick the cars off one by one. It's all about timing, trying to find when to get to those lapped cars and dispose of them without having to break your momentum as best as you can. Sean Strong in the number 14. His evening is done as he makes the left-hand turn into the infield. We have raced 11 laps, make it 12 into our 20-lap feature. Brad Looney able to tick off a couple of tenths of a seconds on Dustin Walker. He's getting ever so closer to him as Brad Looney making a good move trying to catch up with the 14. He's got 7 laps to do it as they get ready to cross underneath the flag stand this time.
Looney had problems with his fuel pump, problems with the oil pump, problems with everything on that car, which is why we didn't see him the first couple of weeks. But since then, he has been out and turning some good lap times in that 14, a 17.1 his last time around as he continues to try and cut into the lead of Dustin Walker. He's got it under a second now, Shane, with 6 circuits to go.
Shaved off a half a second. Now Ashley Lancaster, the next to go a lap down. She will stay up high on the track. Now here comes Todd Schute. Schute, who started mid-pack, now right on the back bumper of Brad Looney as those top 3 cars all starting to bunch up a little tighter each and every lap as Todd Schute, now right behind both number 14s, drives it in hard over to turn 3 and 4, and he will knock off 3 more car lengths. This time he goes high to the outside trying to find a way to get around Brad Looney. Dustin Walker now with no competition back behind him as it's up to over a second now as they get ready to cross with 3 laps left. The timing and scoring says it's now right at 0.9 seconds between the two number 14s.
Chute tries to sling it off the top of turn number 2, unable to make up any ground on Looney in the 14. Looney to the bottom of the track now, looking for something to get a run on Dustin Walker. And he does that time. Shane pulls up right on the back bumper of the opposing 14, and it is going to be a drag race down the back stretch.
One more time around, Brad Looney on the inside gets a run on Dustin Walker. They're side by side in 3 and 4. Walker with the advantage off of 4. We'll see if Brad Looney has anything left for that top spot. Todd Chute lurks in the weeds, back in 3rd place. Looney goes high on the track, tries one more dive bomb attempt, but Dustin Walker will not let it happen. Off of 4, first time winner this year. It goes to the peculiar Missouri native Dustin Walker, who starts on the point.
Let's see how right Chris Jackson is on the drop of the green flag here for the Ozark Golf Cars USRA B mods. He and Andy Bryant go barreling through turn 1 and 2. Bryant right where he wants to be at the top of the track, and your defending track champion fading back here as they work their way to 3 and 4. It's Bryant and McGowan on the top side. J.C. Morton trying to follow Chris Jackson around, and Andy Bryant will lead lap number 1, the youngest ever USRA B-Mod National Champion, trying to work his way to victory lane against one of the best. Bryant out in front of Jackson, McGowan alone in 3rd, and then it's Ryan Gilmore and J.C. Morton, a pair of Springfield, Missouri drivers, doing battle back there for 4th place. Another gaggle of cars a little bit further back in the field. Jamie Mock there. Ben Newell has gotten out and has his own part of the racetrack to work in, and then there's trouble in between 1 and 2 tonight for the Ozark Golf Cars USRA B mods, and Bryant bears down and jumps out in front as Dylan McCowan and Chris Jackson go side by side in chase of your race leader. J.C. Morton rounds out the top 4. Jackson up the track a little bit. The youngster from Urbana right beside him. Side-by-side racing all the way back in the field, back into the teens. As they now get to string out a little bit here, single file. Now Jackson and McCowan trade spots, and Dylan McCowan's car looks a lot better at the bottom of the track. He clears Jackson. Jackson will try and take the spot back. McCowan up at the top of turn number 4, and Jackson slides up in front of him and takes the spot away. All the while, Shane, Andy Bryant doing what Andy Bryant likes to do, take that 28 to the top of the racetrack and put the hammer down.
He's building up that lead. Last time by, it was 0.75 seconds over Chris Jackson. That time around, extends it about 1/10 of a second more. It's up to 0.83. Dylan McCowan now has fallen off the pace a little bit after making that move in turn 2 to get around Chris Jackson. Jackson fought for that position back. Now Dylan will fall into the clutches of Ryan Gilmore as Gilmore in the 66 looks to the inside of Dylan McCowan. Car making the exit off of turn right. That is James Gish. His evening is done. And now Gilmore does get that spot away from McCowan as he chops off the nose and now has 3rd.
How ironic that those two cars battling for 3rd place. It was Gilmore that took the checkered flag just a little while back, but could not pass post-race tech, so McCowan ended up your race winner on that night. They continue to duel for 3rd, opening the door for the 99T. Here comes Eric Turner, and here comes Chris Jackson as he has cut down the differential between he and your race leader, Andy Bryant.
Cut it in half. It was up at 0.9. Now it's 0.4 seconds. He gets a little bit closer to him over in turn 2, and now the great equalizer, lapped traffic. This time around, Andy Bryant and Chris Jackson will have to navigate around the 99 of Jim Seehee. Also in line is the 74 of Kyle Bates. How will they get to that lap traffic? Of course, Andy Bryant will take him on the high side.
Well, that's probably the easier route. Most of your other drivers are catfishing at the bottom or running in the middle. Bryant gets to keep his line, and Chris Jackson is in jail. The big boss man, Jim Seehee, pinches down on your defending track champ, as Bryce Gottschall will now retire and take his car, takes the 46 back to the pit area. And that gives Andy Bryant a big gap now between he and Jackson. Jackson dives it into turn number 4, slides up the track, and this time around, Jackson will find himself a second behind your race leader, Andy Bryant, with 11 laps in the book.
And I would say that Andy Bryant had an easy time getting around that lap traffic, but Sparks flew off that right side as he brushed up against the wall, getting around those 3-lapped cars. Chris Jackson on the other end, he really had to root his way down on the low side, kind of like a mole digging in the dirt. Tried to get Jim Seehee up out of his line, didn't quite get it done in time, allowing Andy Bryant to get out in front. And now Chris Jackson, look at that power move as he goes all the way down to the inside in 3 and 4. He'll cut that lead in half again, as it was 1.5 seconds. Now it's only 0.7 seconds.
That Rubel race engine makes a ton of power, and Chris Jackson taking full advantage as he tries to track down the firecracker from Fort Scott, Kansas. Andy Bryant, your race leader, and Jackson continuing to inch forward. Back behind him now, Eric Turner has found his way to third place around the 66 of Ryan Gilmore, and J.C. Mortonshane dropping back in the field to 7th, but J.C. Newell plowing ahead now, getting up into the top 5.
Oh, you mentioned J.C. Morton falling back, Dylan McCowan falling back as well. He just continues to move back. He's now all the way back to 8th as Mitchell Franklin has gotten around him in the F1, and Dylan McCowan, obviously something wrong. He has decided he's going to save his car and head back to the pits.
McCowan was the champ at Lebanon Midway Speedway a season ago, currently your point leader here, and as he and now J.C. Morton retires. Morton, who's already won a race here, he's won at 3 different tracks this year, takes a break, has to go behind the wall, and all the while, Chris Jackson continues to bring the 65 toward the front. 0.4 of a second separated he and Andy Bryant the last time around, and lap traffic continues to slow the assault of the 28 on the field. 18 laps down now, Brayton Skaggs having to pull back behind the wall. Jim Seehee pulls it into the grass. Cars dropping like flies right now. Well, of course, we started with a ton of them, so.
It gets to a point where after you've been lapped and after your car just is simply not handling, yeah, you want to stay out and gather up all the points you can, especially if you're running 4 points here at Lucas Oil, but there also is a lot of sense to wisely just deciding to take it off the track and saying uncle for that evening, knowing that the only thing that can happen is just going to get worse. Something breaks on your car, you get involved in an incident, and it actually does more damage, so it's better off just to make the right-hand turn and call it a night.
J.C. Newell trying to work his way around a couple of cars. Does so. Mitchell Franklin trying to follow the same line. The pilot of the F1 gets it to the bottom of the racetrack. He is now up to 6th. Mitchell Franklin on a good run here tonight. I saw his dad, Josh, had posted on Facebook earlier today, really trying to get the monkey off our back tonight at the Diamond of Dirt tracks. And right now, with 4 more laps to go, they are poised for a top 10 finish. Andy Bryant, 0.7 of a second, the advantage over Chris Jackson. No one between the top 2 cars on the racing surface with 3 more laps to go. Ryan Gilmore holding on to the 3rd spot. Eric Turner in 4th, and J.C. Newell your top 5. Bryant back to the top of the racetrack. Jackson content to run the bottom. Ben Newell now in front of Andy Bryant, and Bryant takes to the top of the track. Newell takes a bounce in the middle of 3 and 4, and the white flag comes out for Andy Bryant. Bryant with another car in front of him. Jackson with 2 in between him. Lap traffic sealing off the defending track champ, and Andy Bryant has to work his way off of turn number 4 one more time and gets to the checkered flag first here on TA Petro Night.
Taylor Carver will have the best shot on these opening laps to get in front of that number 11 and see if he can stay in front of him. Green flag flies, and we're back to racing action as it gets loud here at Lucas Oil Speedway. Derek Brown has Reggie Jackson in tow, gets around Taylor Carver. Tim Brown to the inside of the number 40 has to lift off the gas as it's side by side right up in front of him. Jackson top shelf Taylor Carver to the inside. Jackson had a bad exit off of turn 2. He'll give up the ground to number 40 as Carver takes over second. Now Johnny Coates up on the track. Colton Borland spins it out back behind him. Also around is the number 19 of Derek Long, and the caution flag itself. Reggie Jackson on the outside of row 2, Carver to the inside, and we're back underway with Tim Brown and Johnny Coates side by side for third. Frank Escamilla works up through the field. He's looking inside Johnny Coates, trying to take over that 5th spot. Falls back in line. Now here comes Carver. He was able to hang with Derek Brown on that opening lap. Stays side by side with him, completing lap number 2.
Pair of Tony Jackson Jr. chassis running side by side, but boy, Derek Brown just gets a great run off of turn number 2. Gets him about a car length clear of Carver, but Carver riding around the bottom of the racetrack, pulls back alongside him, and just a half a car length between he and Brown as they go 1-2 again around the racetrack.
Frank Escamilla goes 1-2 times around in turn 2 as he loops it. Gets a couple cars involved in that, but that was all Frank Escamilla getting it. As we'll go 20 times around in this one. Derek Brown off to a good start, has Dad Tim in tow. Tim to the outside of Carver. Now Johnny Coates tucks in right behind Tim Brown, tries to get around Reggie Jackson as Jackson holds tough on that inside line, buries it down over into turn 3 and 4, following in the tire tracks of Carver as Carver's starting to catch up with that number 11 again.
There's a lot of Tony Jackson Jr. chassis running in the top 5 right now as Johnny Coates gets a little squirrely around the bottom of the track and goes up in front of the birthday boy tomorrow, Toby Ott. Ott trying to keep his string alive here, Shane. 3 straight weeks of racing here at Lucas Oil Speedway. 3 straight top 5s for the defending track champion. Right now he's 1 spot outside of that. May be in danger of getting shuffled back as Cody Frazon trying to do battle with the 27 Ott.
Here comes Carver to the inside of Brown. He'll have something for him off of turn 4 as he'll lead lap number 6. Side by side again with those top 2 cars as they are starting to break away from the 111, getting a good 6 car lengths between the top 2 spots and third racing Tim Brown before you get back to Reggie Jackson. Carver again, that low line continues to work for the number 40. He will actually clear Derek Brown this time, and now he'll start to extend that lead, but Brown back in the loud pedal again as that horsepower underneath the hood of that number 11 starts to make up the ground. That TJR chassis is hooked up, and now the engine's starting to come in tow, trying to catch up with that 40.
Taylor Carver found a line about 2 laps ago, Shane, that worked. He has turned in the only sub-19 second lap time so far here, and look at the great run he gets off of 2 again. Getting some breathing room between he and the gentleman who is looking for his 4th straight feature win here in Wheatland.
Part of it is you got to wonder if Derek Brown, he's been in this situation before. Is he letting his tires cool down a little bit, trying to save something for later on in the race? They're going to see the cross flags this time by, signifying 10 down, 10 to go. Derek Brown now has fallen off the pace just a little bit more. Almost a full second is Taylor Carver ahead of Derek Brown.
Great 3-car battle back for 5th. Johnny Coates, Toby Ott, Cody Frazon. They line up. Ott tries to get around the 0-4. Coates drops back in line behind Frazon. They work their way off of 4. Cody Frazon able to hold on to that final top 5 spot. Coates and Ott splitting behind him, trying to find a line that'll get him around the driver from Lamont, Missouri.
Again, go back up to your front cars as it's now a 0.8 second advantage for Taylor Carver. Taylor Carver has only had his car out a couple of times this year. He was bad fast in the heat race earlier on. Now Derek Brown is starting to catch up again. Lap traffic played a role in Derek Brown's win last week. Cody Frazon was out in front. Derek Brown saw lapped cars up in front. He got around him a little easier than Cody Frazon did, and that let Derek Brown pick up the win. Now lap traffic in front of your leaders again. On the inside, it's the 19 of Derek Long. The outside, it's the 44 of Steve Scott.
All of a sudden, Shane, Derek Brown has erased the advantage that Taylor Carver had. It was 0.6 of a second down to 0.3 of a second. Then he gave a little bit back. Carver flings it off of turn number 4 now. Continues to have a 3-car length advantage over Brown. 0.4 of a second that time as they work their way around a pair of cars that they'll put another lap down.
Carver will get around it a little bit easier. Now he'll get held up by Derek Long. He has to go to the inside. Trying to get around the 19, he will. Derek Brown goes top shelf. That lead has evaporated, and here comes Brown. We saw it last week with the last lap pass once lap traffic got involved. Now he's up to the outside with 3 to go. Carver hugs the middle of the track. Brown has to go to the outside, lift off, and he'll try one more time to get around with only 3 laps left. Up to the top again he'll go. Tries to find the sticky stuff. Get a little more traction as a car in front. The 777 starts to get loose as Jeff Dowdy got tail happy. Now with 2 laps left, side-by-side lap traffic up in front of your leaders, and it's side-by-side with your leaders as Derek Brown still trying to find a way to get around the 40. Which way will Carver go? He's got no lane to get through. He's got the 69 of Brian Brown with one more time around. Carver to the inside may have just enough to stay out in front of the 11. The lap traffic gets lined out in front of him. Derek Brown will have one more go at it. He takes the middle of the track. Carver to the inside. He will hold the line and pick up his first feature win of the season.
He will look for the orange cone and that tire in the bottom of turn number 4. Mike Striegel says it's go time with the green flag. And the Wolf Brothers Racing entry will try to lead him around lap number 1. But Chase Jones high on the racetrack and gets a good run down the backstretch. And Jones vying for the lead here, 1 lap in. Wolf gets a little curved up there in turn number 4, and it's that purple 03 that leads him on lap number 1. Peyton Phillips in the 98 to the bottom of the racetrack now vying for the 2nd spot. Skaggs and your point leader Robert Reed. 5 cars all right around one another trying to jockey for position to be the runner-up right now as Chase Jones is flying. Bottom of the racetrack for the 03, the bottom of turn 2 here on lap number 2, and now Reed gets a good run, dives to the inside of the track, and Robert Reed trying to make his way to the front as we've got 3 laps down and 17 to go.
Boy, flames just coming out of that left rear, the 98 of Peyton Phillips down at that low side. Whenever you see him enter turn 1, just continue to pour out from underneath that car. Robbie Reed in turn 3, and now it's Richard Hines that loops it over in turn 2.
And Chase Jones will let loose here in turn number 4 and get us back to green flag racing. Jones, a good looking restart. Phillips not trying to lose any ground, and here comes Robert Reed. What a big time move by the 5 as he goes to the outside, and he and Jones will work through turn number 4 side by side. The 23 of Lucas Dobbs retires behind the wall, and Robert Reed goes to the top of the pylon here. He's already got 1 win on the season here. Heck, he's been in the top 5 every race so far. Shane, he won on opening night. He took home a 5th place spot in week 2 and then a runner-up last Saturday night.
Now you see how this track has come in. They are now racing 2 wide easily on the top and the bottom. Nobody's really venturing too hard into the middle of that track. Robbie Reed runs it well over in turn 3. He's able to stay out in front. Everyone else going way high or way low.
Chase Domer sits in 3rd. Peyton Phillips behind him in 4th, and Phillips has got a lot of company looking for that 4th place spot. Nobody in front or behind Robbie Reed as Chase Jones gives it another run, bounces it through turn 4, and this time around, 7 laps in, it's a 1.5 second advantage for the purple and white hot rod of the man from Mexico, Missouri, Robert Reed.
Half a straightaway advantage over Chase Jones. Nobody has anything for your point leader. He's 42 points ahead of Ryan Middall right now, and Middall stuck middle of the pack. He's back in 5th right now. Peyton Phillips up in front of him. No real battle other than back for 6th, where Robert Heidenreich looks to the outside of Tyler Wolf. Domer's made some ground up on Chase Jones. That's a battle for 2nd.
About 0.4 of a second between Domer and Jones. Domer pulls up right on the back bumper of the 0-3. As Robert Reed brings his race car off of turn number 4, crossed flags, signifying we're halfway home. 10 laps in the books, 10 more to go here at our 4th and final feature of the night. And Domer dives to the bottom of the racetrack, slides up in front of the 0-3, and Chase Domer now running in 2nd. Can Chase Jones take the spot back? The dueling chases off of turn number 4, but Domer dominates off of turn number 4 and maintains the 2nd place. Phillips solidly in 4th. The 21 of Buttonbuck, Ryan Middaugh makes up your top 5. Another 21, Rusty Skaggs, back in 6th. And Tracy Wolf, who started on the front row, is slid back. That car looked fantastic, Shane, in the heat races. Maybe not handling quite as well now in our finale.
Yeah, the track's changed and may not be a fact of him not being able to keep up with the track, as now Jason Pursley in the 38C will make the right-hand turn. His night is done. With 7 laps left, Robbie Reed well out in front of Chase Domer. Nobody's got anything for the 5 here tonight.
The Vanderbilt race car is very, very good. Reed rolls off a 4 once again now. Domer giving chase. Domer behind him by over 2 seconds now with just 6 laps to go. And what had been a good lead early on for Chase Jones now becomes trying to hold on to a podium finish and put the 0-3 in 3rd. Peyton Phillips tries to get a run through the middle of 3 and 4, but cannot gain any ground on Jones. Can Domer gain any ground on Robert Reed? Shane, they're just kind of strung out. Everybody, for the most part now, with the exception of Heidenreich's, running single file around the racetrack, and so many cars have retired, there's plenty of room to run.
Yeah, the only guy that's trying to put up a fight is, as you mentioned, Robert Heidenreich. He's brushed the wall a couple of times.
29B now has to retire to the infield. Came into the grass hot, but able to get it stopped. As we continue with green flag racing here in our 4th and final feature of the night. Domer getting a little bit closer. Has it down closer to a 2nd differential between he and Robert Reed. Reed going through the middle of 3 and 4. Domer a little bit lower on the track. See if he reels him in, and he does. The differential now a 2nd, but Domer may be running out of time. He may have to try a kamikaze move here in the final lap and a half if he wants to get door handle to door handle with the defending track champ. Domer drives it again hard into turn number 4 and gets a little bit closer. Reed sees the white flag. One more time around. Domer at the bottom of the track washes up. Reed makes room for him. Reed won on opening night. Domer, a huge move to the bottom of the track. He washes up. Reed pulls up in front of him, and the man from Mexico, Missouri has done it again.